with Wilson is an hour that you get locked in, pro-cannabis. I believe it should be legalized, and I try to educate everybody in that direction, and I give you a curated news hour that I've, garnered information I think you might like. I was looking at some weird stats, and apparently, and I'm sure it's COVID-related, but suicides are, in July, this year was the same as all of last year. So let's keep our brains straight. Mobile mental health crisis response number 1-800-233-4512. And if the voices in your head get you outside, it's cold. New Life Center helps people who are homeless and hurting go from merely surviving to truly thriving. Their aim is to help people in need discover value and find hope. The New Life Center has evolved into a multifaceted emergency and crisis service center. To learn more about NLC, visit their website at www.fargonlc.org or give them a call at 701-235-4453. And I'm Wilson. Welcome, Fargo. It's, like I said, I started to sing a little ditty. You guys know what it is. But I don't know. My daughter, she's a teacher in Dickinson. She was planning to drive today. It got a little funky, So, and people say, oh, well, it's the Karens out now. It's the first snow. Everybody knows how to drive, buckle up. But, man, you only make one mistake one time until you're calling, call a friend and you're in the ditch. So, anyway, again, 420, I'm going to bust out a fresh bag of cannabis news every week. That's what I got for you. And after the music break, we do the Boo on Measure 2 segment, so I got stuff to talk to you about that. And I suppose without further ado, okay, I got to set up this next song. I was thinking, if you were something like an animal, what would fly like an eagle be if you were seal? And so here's Seal, Fly Like an Eagle. Here it comes. Fly Like an Eagle, Seal, Space Jam, best movie in the world. I got no idea. But anyway, in 2020, you probably see a stinking seal flying like an eagle. You know what I mean? But anyway, this is the segment's called Boo on Measure 2. I'm going to pull up the old article that I read. It was published September 9th, 2020, Valley News Live, Morgan Bent. And it kind of encapsulates, because I don't know, I get off on a tangent. I'm not so sure I keep it tight, and I'm not supposed to. This is Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, not Dr. Bob with, the fancy show. I'm just trying to educate and reduce stigma around cannabis, and I push anything certainly locally that we were trying to do, and which, could be a constitutional amendment. And I just wanted to say to the people that are yes on Measure 2, and I think Measure 2 is number 2, to be honest. I think it strips us of the power that we should have to maintain, because here's my argument here. Again, if legislators were doing what the people in a majority, a lot of them will probably lie on a poll, but the majority is for cannabis in some form, and even the medical could use a little more work and be more accessible to the normal man. All held up by legislators in regular people-driven initiatives. Maine, it took them 4 years to finally get it out on the market because of legislative hang-ups, because they didn't do a constitutional amendment. A constitutional amendment is the only thing that people can get and make things happen, because the legislators do mess with the people-driven initiatives. So I know that they don't mean regular people-driven initiatives, like the regular ones, whatever that means. And I know they're talking about the Constitution Amendment. And that's what I'm saying. We've tried, and states have tried, to use that particular way to get stuff done, only to have it hung up with legislative poo-poo. Maine, 4 years it took you legislators to talk about a whole lot of nothing. More people suffered. So that's why we were gathering signatures, and I'm sure it'll get started again, for a constitutional amendment. And that's why Measure 2 needs to get a big fat no, because it really slaps those particular reasons in the face. Because first of all, you got to trust the people a little bit, and they go out and they get the signatures, whatever. And if their reason is because you, the legislators, won't listen, and this is the last resort, then what else is there but stinking amending the Constitution for a cannabis grow and possess measure. So anyway, so I just wanted to say that. I think we're all smart enough to know that it means a constitutional measure specifically, but we don't we can't get through with the regular people-driven initiatives, the ballot initiative, because we've tried it, and other states have tried it. And it gets hung up by this legislative blah, blah, blah. So in some cases, and it's done for the right reasons, the people need to be able and effectively get something done that's we the people. Because we've tried it all the normal ways. And as I get in at 420 and we talk about cannabis news, you'll see that everybody's tried the regular way, getting petitions. And now, in the last couple of years, legislators are actually driving the initiatives. They present them to whatever session, blah, blah, blah. But they're expediting it, and it's moving fast because they've decided that they want to do it. But we've wanted to do it for a long time, and we've went every avenue possible. So what should I do if I've exhausted all the options? Well, then I go for an amendment of the constitutional amendment, So anyway, Measure 2 is just veto power of the legislature against the people over constitutional amendments that we the people pass. See, we've already passed it. And they want to hold it up for another year. And they're using weird reasons. And that's another thing. That vote yes on Measure 2 on Facebook, I mean, how vague of a measure is that? And those people loved fine-tuning and picking at measures specifics to say, it isn't written well. These guys love to pick apart Measure 3, the cannabis legalization one. They said it was too vague. But yet their advertisement couldn't be more vague. It says vote yes for Measure 2. Doesn't explain it at all. Well, they say some hype words, It'll keep billionaires from buying stuff. I don't know. I just don't know what that is. But we, the people, have trouble getting cannabis laws passed and growing options the normal way. And so I believe the constitutional amendment should have always had a hemp bylaw because of how far back it goes. But instead, for greed and political gain, they chopped down the hemp avenue and decided we're going to cut down trees instead and make paint. That's just as simple as that. So anyway, under Measure 2, if the legislator declines a measure, it can still appear on the next election's ballot leading up to the general election on November 3rd. Both groups, for and against, will be campaigning for their side. And again, they don't do a great job of explaining it, and that's why it feels a little, I don't know, because the people that question it, I mean, they banned me from their page. I certainly couldn't give my opinion. Of course, Measure 2 is number 2. It's kind of hinky. But, it's you got the Representative Scott Louser. Why not? He says the current process in North Dakota to amend our Constitution does not require any entity or any person to go before the public and explain why they want this done. We honor the public, though. And we get sick of explaining what we want done. That's the whole point. It gets hemmed up with you guys up there in the big fancy house in Bismarck, specifically. So the people know exactly what we want. And if it confuses you, Representative Scott Louser, well, then you weren't one of all the majority of the people who voted for that. Educate yourself and become cool, buddy. So vote no on Measure 2. And, I see I never changed it. Well, that's all right. So, let me see here what I'm doing. I got to blow out the next few songs. Here's new Kanye West, Nah, Nah, Nah. Oh, man, that was tasty. Paul Cawthon from his Room 41 album, Holy Ghost Fire. And right before that was Nah, 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 brand stinking new Kanye West. And I don't know, y'all, we got to it. It's 420. And I was going to say, I wanted to tell you guys that the temperature is always 420 in the studio here. It's pretty hot, but, I'm dressed accordingly. But here's the intro. After this, it's Canna-Talk ND with Wilson.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna-Talk ND. You know, the super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
Wake up, indeed, everybody. And Canna-Talk ND with Wilson's every Thursday at 4:20. I give you a fresh bag of cannabis news. And we got a lot of humdinging stuff to talk about this time. Canna-Talk ND on YouTube. That's where this show will show up again without the music if you miss it now. It's also on Spotify and Apple Music because somebody puts it there. Shout out Philip Pilko. He does Canna Heads on Sunday. Canna-Talk ND. ND for Freedom of Cannabis, a Facebook page. It's like the meme place. It's kind of just a social place, you know. But anyway, cannabis. Let's talk about it. I'm going to give you 25 minutes of the hottest cannabis news there is. And I'm even shaking my head like that, too. But anyway, what do I want to say? We got a lot to talk about. And so let's see. First of all, let me say this. Missouri and Maine this week is now medical. You now can go to a dispensary for whatever your need is in Missouri and Maine. So let's give them a hand. Okay, so now that's the good news, and I've got more good news. You know, sadly, you know, when we come into this election season and there's cannabis measures on the ballot, you know, I think last week or the week before that I said, like, I'm surprised I'm not seeing all those old antics. Well, the thing is, we don't have one on the ballot. You know, so the little anti-cannabis canaries aren't chirping in North Dakota, although we're trying to get out with this Measure 2. No on Measure 2, everybody. No on Measure 2. We the people, not them the people. All right? Don't let them tell you any different. You know, wield your own voice. Oh, and educate yourself as we get into the election season. You know, you don't have to do what I vote, but you still got to vote. Because I don't even know. Well, I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, so my point is even though Missouri and Maine is now going forward, it took Maine 4 years of legal mumbo-jumbo. You know, so South Dakota, you know, stinking Christy don't know 'em. We'll talk about her in just a stinking second. But I wanted to talk about the good news. So Montana Supreme Court got challenged because here's what's happening. There's 2 measures on the Montana ballot. And so, again, they're nitpicking just like they did in Nebraska. You know, this last minute, hey, wait a minute, the comma is in the wrong spot, sir. And so that's what was happening here in Montana. So the Supreme Court rejected a lawsuit seeking to invalidate a marijuana legalization initiative that will appear on the state's November ballot. With weeks before the election, opponents asked the court to quash the measure, arguing that because it involves appropriating funds, it violates state statute on citizen initiatives. You know, what? You know, I'm going to read it again. The proponents asked the court to quash the measure, arguing that because it involves appropriating funds, it violates state statute on citizen initiatives. But here's the thing. The court didn't weigh in on the merits of the challenge. Rather, it said the petitioners with the campaign Wrong for Montana failed to demonstrate urgency or emergency factors. You know, which is so interesting because Nebraska, remember, they claimed there was more than one thing in the measure, like it didn't involve just one thing. And they used where the money would go and how you would buy and sell it. But Montana's Supreme Court, because Nebraska's Supreme Court rolled 3-2 on boo on cannabis. So drive around Nebraska. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, the court said it wasn't urgent or no emergency. So it wouldn't justify moving the case into its jurisdiction instead of going through trial and appeals court. So it left the door open for the opponents to take his challenge through the traditional process. They intend to file the suit in district court soon. It's in quotes, so, you know, they're just talking. But he wasn't able to provide a court timeline. Of course not, because you're going to play it out, see how it works out. But anyway, this lawsuit was a frivolous long shot, said New Approach Montana. It was an easy decision for the Montana Supreme Court. So it is the case that state statute says citizens may enact laws by initiative on all matters except appropriations of money and local or special laws, and that the initiative does allocate cannabis tax revenue to certain programs, but prior measures that have appeared on the state's ballot have done so as well. So, solid Montana. You guys keep rocking, and I'll be following you, because November, so many. I feel like I'm working like a fantasy football thing, and I'm setting up all the players of this cannabis football game that's going on. We got your quarterbacks. We got like the villains, that pop up, which in Mississippi, because medical marijuana is on the ballot. And President Donald Trump's re-election campaign, I don't even know what that means relative to this, has issued a cease and desist order against a Mississippi medical marijuana legalization campaign, claiming, quote, unauthorized and misleading representation of the president's position on the reform initiative in one of its mailers. So a mailer shows up at your house, even though he has on multiple occasions spoken favorably on camera about medical cannabis. So the chief operating officer of Donald J. Trump sent a letter demanding that they stop distributing campaign materials touting the president's pastor Mark. And I'm just dying to hear what the reason was. While the mailer in the envelope is being sent in, don't at any point state that Trump has specifically endorsed Initiative 65. They encourage voters to join President Trump and 3 out of 4 Mississippi Republicans who support medical marijuana and point out that he's voiced complete support for medical marijuana, and he has. But boy, did he backtrack. Because, again, I don't want to talk about colors, but he's given a pretty clear directive on being anti-cannabis in this run, So he was quoted in saying in 2015 that Colorado has, quote, and this is the president, a lot of problems going on right now with its recreational marijuana program. Medical cannabis, he goes, is another thing. So it's kind of like just these things he's saying, though, like he's just like a blobbity, 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 but when held to it, when mailers are being mailed out in Mississippi, all of a sudden, and so he was also quoted going, I think medical marijuana 100%. So why couldn't you say, if there's a quote, why couldn't you put it on the mailer? I think it's funny when they say 3 Republicans, because that's what they're trying to, this shouldn't be a partisan thing. It shouldn't be color. Cannabis is beneficial to all humanity, and it always was. It was in the animals, in the grass, no pun intended. But it politically got trampled, and so we just got to stop looking at it like that. And then people who are so rigid about just voting all in one color, we got to work on that somehow, because whatever. Okay, so beyond stating his personal support for medical cannabis, Trump has said multiple times that he personally knows people who have benefit from using it. He says, I think medical should happen, right? Don't we agree? I mean, I think so. Okay, I can't do it. I know people that are very, very sick for whatever. Can't do it. So anyway, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them. So it's kind of funny that he had to write a special letter to get that done. And I don't even know how he knows about a mailer. Like, he got people out going, hey, dude, you're not going to check this out, man. They got some, they're putting you on the, your face on the cover of this, door mailer. And so to me, it really just proves how stinking sadly political cannabis is, and it's at the base, it's medical benefits across the board. And it really kind of bugs me out. It bugs me out, But anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here at Radio Free Fargo, radiofreefargo.org. You can listen to it online. Welcome. We cover a curated, fresh bag of cannabis news every week, and that's what we're ankle deep in here now. Okay, so Mississippi got some sort of weird letter to cease and desist. Montana had a Supreme Court ruling against them that they got removed. Apparently, Montana, they said that there was no appropriating for the money. There's nowhere for the money to go. And that's another thing I've noticed, that people are, I forget what state it is, but they're questioning that very thing because they say it should just go to environmental reasons. And I'm guessing the greedy people are like, well, that's a stupid reason. But apparently there's a loophole where there is an excise tax. The state will impinge its own little taxi thing just by default. But it's funny to me that we were taxing, the money tax was going for a good reason. And they're like, oh, that's dumb. Are you sure that's what you wanted to go to environment? Really? The money to make our planet better? Get out of here. That's a horrible idea. And that's essentially what they're fighting in another state. And here we are at South Dakota. Stinking Christie don't know him. I mean, bless her little heart, huh? So let me, so anyway, that she came out, and this was like, I guess it's a Republican thing, but she came out saying, my people have the freedom to make their own decisions. I trust my people, personal responsibility, blah, blah, blah. And my daughter says I got a crush on her because she is cute, but she's still crazy. And she seems like people don't get this, that we don't see it. Okay, so here's her quote. It's not good for our kids, and it's not going to improve our communities. As your governor, I am urging all South Dakotans to vote no on legalizing marijuana this November, Governor Christie Noem. And somebody Facebook below, Kendall Lee, she goes, whoa, what happened to South Dakota trusted citizens with freedom and personal responsibility? And what a good point. I mean, what happened to that? Because that should translate freedom and responsibility and saying my people in South Dakota are smart enough to make the right decision, except for when it comes to cannabis. Then you guys are stupid and you need my approval. It's kind of it feels dictatory too, but it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Your constituents either have personal freedoms and responsibilities to themselves or they don't. Or it's just whenever you decide that you want it to happen. So you do a fake bolster. My people are way smarter than that. But boy, they're stupid around cannabis. No. It should carry all the way through. You either trust your people or you don't. But when you look at like evidence kind of suggests that she uses, she makes money off the corn and the agriculture to make booze, So, and I'm sure there's other monies in the pharmaceutical, blah, 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 spin hustle. So she gets money from there. And she's probably got some sort of in with the cops because they make like a lot of stinking money busting people. South Dakota's sniffing it out. And that brings me to a point I read that stinking Virginia has almost gotten through to where they can't use smell as a reason to pursue you further. And apparently the governor, again, did some amending for the positive impact of that. So again, I feel like we're turning the tide. So anyway, here's what I want to talk about South Dakota. It's actually good news because cops, they kind of work with governors who gets, kickbacks for those particular, reasons, booze, whatever, tobacco, who knows, it's probably grown in South Dakota. But anyway, they got a huge prison for profit there. So I could see where they scratch each other's back. And so, of course, she would come out against marijuana. But the reasons are so silly. She says it's not good for our kids and it's not going to improve our communities. Well, in fact, it absolutely will improve your communities in South Dakota, Christy. South Dakota is broke and dismal. All right? I mean, the only people that's got hope are the ones that have way more than all the others. And you're one of them, You go to bed on a very fancy bed and wake up with fancy food. No McDonald's for Christy, no. All the finest liquor. But don't do the cannabis. It's for kids, and that's the thing. What did she say here? She said, it's not good for our kids. Well, good, because it's for the 21 plus. It's not for kids. Unless they need it medically, then absolutely it's for the kids. But let a health professional deal with that. But it's not good for kids. Good, Christy, because it's not going to be focused towards kids. Just like booze and tobacco and all that other stuff. Gets the same kind of spin. And it happens all over. Flavored cigarettes, blah, 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 blah. So don't give me that. It's all spin. You're protecting your people and your revenue. You can't see how to profit off cannabis. your particular political party is anti-cannabis. So that's what you're going to be too, and you're going to try to make it seem like it's the best and only way, when the people in a wide margin are voting pro-cannabis. New Jersey, $1.8 million for pro-advertising versus $9,000 for don't do it. That's where we are in 2020. But anyway, retired South Dakota police officer endorses marijuana legalization initiative in new TV ad. Isn't that neat? A retired Sioux Falls police officer, Bill Stalker, is saying vote yes on A in 26. And that's the funny, the wordsmiths of the anti-cannabis are doing no way on A. I mean, absolutely vote yes on A, South Dakotans. All 16 of you listening, I hear you. But anyway, vote yes on A. Yes way on A way. So anyway, South Dakota is one of 5 states that will be voting on cannabis measures next month. I'm reading this from Marijuana Moment. But it's the only state where both medical and rec will be on the ballot. That is so exciting. I'm going to give them a hand. South Dakota. Good for South Dakota. Bill Stalker said he's backing both. Finally, a cop. God bless you, Bill Stoker. You know, now he's a former police officer, so I can't help but think that if he was still currently an officer, he would probably feel a lot of pressure by the gnome camps and the booze and all them other guys and the cops for him to not say this. But here's what he goes on to say. I haven't figured out how to play video ads yet because, you know, my mentor and the other best show on this radio station, Jason Anderson, he would say there's too much dead air to assume, and so I don't know. But anyway, you look it up. It's vote yes on A in 26. South Dakotans for better marijuana laws is the advertisement. But anyway, he says, I can tell you our harsh marijuana laws aren't working. He said in the ad. You know, and it's on social media, whatever's airing on television. So here's where we get the fun stats in South Dakota. Because if you're not trying to spin it for your own need, it's horrible. So here we go. In 2018, 4,000 people were arrested for marijuana possession in South Dakota. 4,000. That's 1 in 10 arrests. So that's money. So anyway, Stalker said, referencing a report that South Dakotans for Better Marijuana Laws published last month. Each arrest costs $4,000. It doesn't make us any safer. We're wasting law enforcement time and resources that should be fighting serious crimes. So he's voting yes on A and 26, an officer, an ex-officer. Solid Bill Stalker there. And he's not the only cop that'll say that, you know, but cannabis, cop money, prison money in the last, 20, 30 years has been a marketable revenue stream that could almost be, and it's like, well, because it's so bad. No, because it's so good. And because nobody stops doing it or suggesting it because it's just a good dietary supplement if used the way it should be. You know, if the cattle was eating hemp again, just imagine the milk and the meat and, you know, how much better we would be, and we would have more trees to sit under and watch our cows eat the hemp leaves or whatever. It's like catnip. They'd be kind of rolling around. Their moos would all be crooked. Moo. That's what they'd say. But anyway, the data from that report also shows that, as the case across the country, marijuana enforcement has had a disparate impact on people of color despite comparable rates of consumption among white people. On average, black residents and Native Americans in South Dakota have been more than 5 times as likely to be arrested for cannabis compared to white people over the 10-year period the report examines. However, if they even get a chance, they've seen my cannabis button on my hat and use that as a reason to come get a dog and search me and everything when I spent like 2 days in jail in South Dakota. But the new ad comes just a week before South Dakota voters will get to decide on a separate ballot measure. It'll be legalized cannabis for adult use and for medical use. And according to a poll recently last month by opponents of the policy change, about 60% of voters support the proposal, and more than 70% back the narrower medical-focused initiative. So good for South Dakota. That is, That's really awesome. Let me just read it a quick. The adult use constitutional amendments for people 21 and older, Christy. You see, as kids in there, you know? Have you ever seen a 22-year-old little kid? Get out of here. It's not for kids, so it's not going to be bad for kids because they're not going to be doing it. People 21 and older could possess and distribute up to 1 ounce, and that won't benefit communities? I mean, how can Christie say that when Illinois is making $100 million in tax revenue a month? I mean, get out of town. I mean, in communities and in some states, it's getting funneled into environmental reasons. So now you're going to have a beautifuler state with passionate people, considerate people, because cannabis consumers are the best people to have in your stinking community, Christy. So whatever. I mean, it's crazy to me because in all of these places, in stinking Mississippi, you know, they're getting the flack. And even Minnesota or in Montana, people are coming out with those old funny things, you know, but it doesn't have the same effect as 2 years ago you telling me it could affect youngsters. Because there's reports that says it doesn't affect the youngsters in the states where it's legal. There's just no proof. And there's proof that, in fact, it doesn't cause the problems. So it's so discouraging to see people in those states that we have in charge talk to us so patronizingly, you know, and act like we don't know any better. And thanks for Christy to tell us about kids and communities being affected. The booze and the low poverty levels in your state and the lack of hope and you know, opportunity is what's choking out your stupid state, Christy. It has nothing to do with cannabis. You know, you're already in trouble. And I can guarantee you're not going to be any worse off than you already are, which you're probably fine. That's the problem. You're fine, but everybody below you is not. And they would love a revenue stream. They would love to not be persecuted for cannabis. So stop being dumb. And let South Dakota finally have something, you know, they can build off of. You know, so anyway, retired South Dakota police officer, he endorses marijuana legalization in South Dakota. So that's pretty stinking awesome, isn't it? So anyway, let's see. We got 3 minutes here left. I'm going to kind of cruise around marijuana a moment. And so here it says state and local marijuana regulators demand Congress prioritize federal legalization bill. Colorado governor tells Texas not to legalize cannabis so his own state can get more tourism. So, you know, it's almost like governors are kind of like joshing each other. You know, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, you know, they're talking about the same kind of thing, you know. But anyway, I am glad everybody tuned in on this Thursday, 420 Fresh Bag of Cannabis News every stinking Thursday, right after Side Stage with Trav. He'll be back in next Thursday. I mean, unless he isn't. But anyway, Illinois continues record-breaking marijuana sales streak. So Missouri launches medical marijuana sales at state's first dispensary. That's awesome. And they're right next to St. Louis. So I suppose there's a lot of flim-flamming you can do, you know. But that's great. So I plan to go south. My aunt lives and my brothers. And I used to go to Southern Illinois all the time. And I'm not saying because there's legal cannabis there that I want to see them more. But I want to see them more. And I don't have to wait till Illinois. Missouri happens way away. So, I mean, if you know how to get to St. Louis, you got to go straight sinking south to Kansas City, Missouri. And then you go across the state into Illinois proper there, on the southern end, not by Chicago. So that trip becomes, you know, a whole lot cooler. But anyway, less than 2 years after Missouri voters approved a ballot measure to legalize medical cannabis, dispensaries made the states whatever. See, less than 2 years. Maine was 4 years. You know, it's... Anyway, educate yourself. Vote for the right people November 3rd. Next Thursday will be the year of shows I've been doing. Right, last Halloween was my very first show, and I was spooked out. Nobody was here. Jason Anderson goes, "Oh, you got it, buddy. You're good." And I mean, I at the time didn't think I was good. But this hour of programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by Terps Candy. Terps Candy enhances, it relieves, and it relaxes with the power of terpenes, and they make a great CBD companion. Trust me. Terps Candy can be found at 14 Fargo Moorhead locations or online at terpscandy.net. Terps Candy, they enhance, they relieve, and they relax. And they're good dudes, and their candy's pretty tasty too. Well, we've done it. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 4 o'clock, 4:20 is the news. And we're going to jump into a song here. It's Brass Against, and it's Stinkin' Rooster, Sophia Eurista. Here it comes. Boomity bang bang bang, Rooster, featuring Sophia Eurista, Brass Against. That's brand new stuff there too. And I don't know, man. You put a chick's whaley wail with like the horn, like the throaty type stuff. Man, it is fantastic. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here on Radio Free Fargo 95.9 LPFM, Moorhead, Fargo, 701-478-4959. Stream it at radiofreefargo.org. You can donate there because this show runs on love. And so we will take monies, and we call that love. And we love the support, and we love doing stuff for the people. And so every Thursday from 4 to 5, you got your boy Wilson here every Thursday. Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday. Last year I had a buddy in here. Who knows what we'll do, you know. Maybe I'll eat food, make you listen to it. No, just kidding. But anyway, educate yourself. Vote no on Measure 2. It's a ploy to get more control is what it is. It's a ploy by them to get more control. They don't need more control. Trust the people to know when a constitutional amendment is warranted. That's an example of all the signatures. You got to get more signatures for a constitutional amendment. You know, people, you know, yes on Measure 2 people aren't saying that. It's not like a regular ballot initiative. You've got to get twice as many stinking signatures, which proves that it's needed by the people. So anyway, I bid you all adieu. And again, educate yourself on cannabis. It needs to be legalized and as soon as stinking possible, you know. So do what you can. Educate yourself on the proper legislators to, the right politicians to vote in. You know, I would urge you to just pick the person for each particular job, not are they a particular color. If they are going to do a good job for the job the way they sound, then just go with it. Because diversity is what makes the dream work anyway. So, peace out, y'all. Educate yourself. Cannabis legalization is life. We'll see you next Thursday. Here's David Allen. Judgment Day.